Topic number 2. I know someone or have a friend who questions whether or not they are feminist. They feel that sometimes they might make sexist remarks or don't agree with every single feminist topic, so they feel that they can't be feminist. So my topic question is, what makes a feminist a feminist? Can a feminist truly be feminist 24 hours a day, 7 days a week of their lives without flaws, without saying something wrong or doing something against what their belief system is? How critical of yourself should you be?
Just as a question, sorry, just
Go
I want
ahead.
to understand the question clearly.
Go ahead.
Is there a tone in the question that being a feminist is the ideal thing to be? Is there this thing in it or not?
I'm not saying. Yeah, that's no. I'm not saying that. Yeah, I'm not saying that feminist is the ideal. I'm just saying that if someone is a feminist or considers himself a feminist,
Okay.
and so on.
Okay. I wanted to confess something. Yeah. We're having kind of new car renting organization. There is one I've read about in America. You have it Uber. They have the same kind of thing right now for some time, and it has different types. Like the VIP would be for very high class cars, which is kind of expensive. Then we have the economic ones, which are not very for the high class cars and are really economic. And then we have this rose style, which is for women with women drivers. Yeah, which is like kind of cheaper, and you can never find one, by the way. Yeah, and I, as being the, I don't know, feminist, if I can call myself, I opt for that Rosa style just because it was cheaper. So no, again, yeah, exactly. So I don't know. That was what I did. So I don't know if I am a feminist or not.
They are trying to convince you.
I still think you're a feminist. I don't think because you want to drive in a special cabby that you're not a feminist anymore. Rest assured, you're still a feminist in my eyes.
In Europe, in Iran, you are not the only country that has advantage for women. In the West, we have also advantage for women, and it doesn't prevent them from being feminist. Like free entries for the dancing clubs. And so she doesn't have to feel guilty.
Yeah, that's true. There are always some kind of advantages for women. Consider like shopping or when you're going out, or they always have this kind of sales that they are specifically only for women. So yeah.
Yeah, but
But I
actually,
think that makes sense. Women earn less than men in general, so
but there are also disadvantage for women. They have to spend more for beauty.
well,
You
that's
have
for the woman.
seen those pictures. There are funny pictures about women who the life of a woman who is much more expensive. For example, when she has to go to the hairdresser. Or,
Yes, that's true. Hairdressers are more expensive. Unless you have so short hair as I do, because last time I paid for the boys. Yay.
oh,
Yeah,
you have
because my
confused.
hair is so short. That was nice.
Well, I don't really go to the dress, so yeah.
Yeah. No, but can you consider yourself a feminist all the time? When I think about that question, it's more like, is it sexist when you say, when you make sexist remarks once in a while? Is that feminist or not? And can you still call yourself a feminist when you're throwing them around? That's what comes to my mind when I think about this question.
Well, my thing was, everybody says something sometime. So everybody slips up at some point or another, and even the most perfect, the most perfect feminist thinker, doer, so on. Everybody's going to say something in the heat of the moment or what have you. So my feeling was inbred into how we were brought up, and whatever area you were from or so on, whatever, however you were brought up in your family, different backgrounds, things are going to be said, and that doesn't necessarily not make you a feminist. Just because I think the thing that makes you a feminist would be, let's say, knowing that you said it, understanding it was wrong, and then doing whatever to try to change it. As opposed to, let's go back to saying or talking about someone like Weinstein or Kevin Spacey, who did certain things and may not necessarily, even though they may know that they were wrong, just disregard it and keep on doing it and so on without any second thought about it. That would be someone, obviously, who is not a feminist, but if your mindset was that way, then when you did things or did actions, then that would be in question, if you follow what I'm getting at.
Well, I think that assaulting sexually a woman is not about being feminist or not feminist. It's about the sexual desire, the sexual desire of women. I mean, a man can be feminist and commit sex crime against a woman. It's more about his lust for the opposite sex. It's not because he hates the woman that he will assault them.
I don't think I don't think that's a feminist. No, when you're sexually assaulting somebody, you cannot be a feminist,
Right.
because that's probably
But,
the most unfeminist thing you can do.
yes,
Yeah,
but
I was
it's
just
not
using
right.
the analogy of how flat out negative and somebody with no recourse in their head and continuing to do something, and comparing it to someone who knows it was wrong and does what they can to change it in the future. And that would continue to make that particular person a feminist.
I think it is about like owning up to one's errors. Like when you say something and you weren't aware that this is problematic on a social media platform, whichever, and the people you spoke about say, you can't say this, this is really not okay. When you really apologize, when you say, okay, I didn't think about it, I wasn't aware because I'm not in your position, then that's one thing. If you just delete what you said with no further saying anything at all, and even, I don't know, blocking the ones who come to you to say what you did was not right. That's the difference. It's how you react to it when you did something wrong.
Yeah, and also, like as Robert said earlier, it depends from each person, like where he or she's coming from, what are their ideals or beliefs or norms or whatever. So, and also there are so many different definitions of feminist. Like maybe I have a different belief than you have, but we are both feminists. So it's a bit
That's
difficult to say whether you are or you're not.
It is quite easy to see if a person is against the woman. They always make bad comments about the woman, and to see if a person is feminist is quite the opposite. They tend to defend the women.
Okay.
yes. But the problem with feminism, or not say the problem with feminism per se, but the problem that we have as feminists is, who are we including when we speak of women? Because black feminism has other ideals or includes other groups of women and has other attitudes towards men than radical feminists. Radical feminists more or less say men are like, the patriarchy is the root of all evil and that's it. And we need to defeat the patriarchy and then that's it. Black feminists, on the other hand, say that race is important as well because they are oppressed more by their race than their gender, and they also have a different attitude towards family because they say that the family as a construct protects them more from the racism they face. At least that is like the simplest definition of the two. Of course, they are evolving over time, but that at least like to boil it down, that's how it was for a long time.
So it's quite difficult for a boy to defend extremist feminism, extremist feminism. But feminism in general is not the same thing.
Well, I think that's the problem, because we have different definitions of what feminism is, and it's insofar a problem as that we sometimes focus too much on the differences and don't get any work done, because of course it is important to call out bad behavior, problematic behavior, but when we don't focus on the problems and we're talking all the time, then nothing gets done. When we're always talking about, oh, you radical feminists, this is not okay, and you, I don't know, liberal feminists, this is not okay, then we have a problem, because then we're only talking about this and not so much about, we have these problems, let's face them and let's change them for the better.
Oh, so you want the unity, but sometimes the unity is very difficult to reach. For every fight, the unity is very difficult.
I wouldn't say that we
For example, for the
forget
religion,
all the differences, but I think that in some ways we can't always talk about the differences and not get any work done. That's
Right.
but it's a problem. Who is a woman? Because radical trans, excluding radical feminists, are excluding trans women, and so that's a difference, because intersectional feminists say, well, of course they are women. They're transgender women. And so that's kind of a struggle because of different definitions.
so it is the goals that are not well defined. But just try to get a woman president, and you will see what the woman need. Because here it is a quite very diversified movement with no real head, and people can say what has to be done, and
but then I think we can't have one agenda for everywhere, because we have different cultures and different belief systems, and we are all on the way to gender equality, so to speak, to gender equity. But we're like, when it's imagine it to be a race. Some countries are at the 750 meter mark out of 1,000, and some are at the 250 meter mark, or even less. So I think you cannot say it's a one solution for all thing. We need different solutions for different problems in different countries.
yeah. The problem that the women in Europe face are very different from the women who are in Africa or Asia.
Mhm.
Right?
They are more concerned with their daily life, for example.
Yeah, that's true. But then also when I think about what makes a feminist is thinking like, does a feminist have to say we need to, or like when I say, for example, of course the gender pay gap is bad because a lot of women, or women in general, and a lot are disadvantaged, and that's not equality. And when I say, of course it should be tackled and it should be closed, but when I say, okay, that's a problem, but it's not really on my agenda because I have other issues. Like, are there certain issues that a feminist has to have on their agenda? Otherwise, we say, you're not a feminist because you're not supporting or you're not fighting for this to change, for this certain issue.
I think yes.
I think it's like all the problems. You have to think what are the problems that is important to you, and you have to speak out, and maybe people are concerned and will follow what you are doing. You have to start locally, and maybe if it's a problem that everybody finds, then it can be a big movement. So what was the initial problem? I just forgot.
What was the initial question?
Yes.
Um,
Can we
what
be
what
feminist,
what makes
all
a
uh,
feminist a
all the
feminist?
okay?
And I we're just gonna say something. I just lost it. Lost my train of thought. Oh God.
So is there anybody else who wants to contribute, like what on the agenda issue?
On the question that if somebody doesn't 24/7 support feminist actions, if he or she is still considered as a feminist?
Yeah, you can answer that for yourself as well.
Um, I think it depends on what thing you drop. I mean, if you drop supporting gender equality, even for 1 second, then you are not a feminist. If you consciously drop it. But if you make a sexist comment, because okay, then again, if it's consciously, then it is again and not feminist action. But I think it's the same case for to be anything. I mean, let's say being a father, you can be not nice to your wife and still be a father. Or you can be, I don't know, you can beat your son but we still call you a father. But at the point that you don't have any son, then you are not called a father. What I'm trying to get at is that there are certain attributes to any kind of role or status that if you drop them even for 1 second, then you are not considered as them. You don't need to be 24/7 nice to your kid in order to be called a father. So the same way for being
That's there's something here. Like if you beat your kid and then at least for a while, I wouldn't call him a father. I would call him a father, but not a dad. So there's a difference.
okay. So
He
in the
fathered a
case of
child,
being
but
a
yeah.
dad, you need to be
Yeah.
nice to your kid. But in order to be
You
a
need to be
father,
you need
don't
to be
need to be
considerate. Yes.
yeah. So
Like biologically, you are a father,
Fathered
and
the
I call you
child,
a
but
father.
right. Yep,
Exactly, but you're not a dad.
right.
so so it's again a question of what constitutes, what is the main sense of the definition of a any term. Like I don't think that nobody's 24/7 a feminist.
Of
Supporting
course,
all action.
Yeah.
I can agree. Um, I think that a feminist is someone who believes that there are no like differences between the two genders. So primarily. And everything else that comes from feminism is like subcategorized by that. So primarily, a feminist is a person who thinks that there is no difference between the genders.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, yeah, that's where I was thinking before when I lost my train of thought. Yeah, if you're an intersectional feminist and you don't
Yeah.
believe in gender equality, then you can't be an intersexual feminist. Can I say
Because
that?
in order to be a feminist, you have to believe in gender equality or equity. Yes, I know what you're getting at, because you can't be a subgroup if you don't meet the criteria of the group. Because the subgroup, in order to be a part of the subgroup, you have to meet the criteria for the group. Yeah.
And also as an intersectional feminist, not only there needs to be like equality between the genders, but also between like among the same gender, as in like women and men.
Yes, that's true. Because you can be a feminist and be a white liberal second wave feminist, or you can be like nowadays an intersectional feminist who says, okay, I'm for gender equality, but when we talk about women, we need to consider that there are white women and black women and Asian women, and that there are homosexual women and bisexual women, and so on and so forth. And that they all have certain needs, so to speak. And that like all of the criteria is intersecting in them, and so when you like they are oppressed not only by being a woman but by being black as well, or bisexual as well, or transgender as well. So yeah, it's a lot more work to do being an intersectional feminist.
I find the feminists worldwide quite they have quite solidarity between them. For example, when women in Africa have problems, I find that women in Europe tend to defend them and tend to protest, for example, and so it is not a big problem between between the continent. Women are often the feminists are often have often a big solidarity. It's what I find.
So you mean when European feminists
For example,
like
the Weinstein affair, you will see a lot of women protesting. Maybe it be in Europe or United States or Africa. I don't know.
yes, that's true, but with the Weinstein scandal, there's still the problem that the women who do or did speak out are mainly white cis hetero women, and yes, that is important, but a lot of other women are not heard, and that is not okay, I think.
Yeah,
We like yes, it is important with Weinstein that that there was some kind of current, like so it was kind of a blow, like it definitely changed something, I would say. I mean, in parliament in countries in Europe, it was talked about sexual violence and sexual assault against women, and an Austrian politician stepped back because he was accused by two women of of sexually harassing them. So it definitely led to some change, but it's only for a small fraction of all women.
yes, but you can't know about the problems that the women face in Asia or in Africa because the world is very big. You can know about everything that is going on in the whole world. You can so I don't know why it is the problem that
No,
that
no, that yes, you can't know everything. But the problem is, in the US, there are so many black women and other women of colors, and for them it didn't change much, or for or for minorities of orientation. I didn't see many bisexual women speaking out against their perpetrators, and as a matter of fact, they must be there, or transgender women, or so on. So yes, it did change, but not everyone.
but maybe if the person of color in the United States don't speak about their problems, you can't be solidarity with them if they don't find that they have problems. You can work with them. So
It's a big discussion. What makes a feminist a feminist? Because I think it's always important to speak with, first to listen, then to speak with the people and not to speak over them, because that's really disrespectful and you can do way more harm than when you speak with them. Because when you speak with them, you know what their problems are and you can support them. But when you speak over them, that's just really, really disrespectful.
So what makes a feminist a feminist? Can a feminist be feminist all day? I think it's about guilty when something does something and finds that it is not coherent with her thoughts. It's all about feeling guilty, and I don't think it's good to feel guilty. For example, some women who have the very well-known problems of the women who don't shave their armpits because they find it's like something that is to women. So they don't take care of their beauty, and it's the extreme case.
Now we're touching on the beauty myth.
Yes. Well, I think a feminist, you can be a feminist regardless of whether you shave or not. That's just, I think as a woman, my body is mine, and therefore I have to make and am allowed to make choices over it, and I should be the only one to make choices over it. Therefore, I think it's the shaving or not shaving question is not, it's not what I would
not
never
relevant
tell
at that point.
somebody. It's kind of unrelated to the
It's
question
irrelevant.
of what makes a feminist for me.
Right. Exactly.
Yes, I'm not telling that that it is wrong, but some people who are in the extreme feminism will question everything that they do, and they don't know if it is a feminist or not feminist. So they feel guilty, and they become quite disbalanced.
I don't think that's right, though. I don't think that that person who does something just because is feminist is actually feminist. Because I think it's wrong. You do something because you want to do it. You believe in something because you want to believe in it. So I don't think, at least that's what I think.
Yeah. I just think it's really important that words are one thing, but actions are the other thing. You can say you're a feminist, and that's fine, but then you also have to act like one. You can't just say, oh, I'm a feminist because it's kind of cool and in. When you say you're a feminist, then you also, with your abilities, with the ways it is possible for you, you have to do feminist issues. If you can't walk, then write. If you can't write, then speak. If you can't speak, do something else that you can. There will always be, however minimal, there will always be a way for you to do something feminist. And many little things make one big thing. So even if you can't do much because you are restricted so much because of laws or societal expectations or something else, even if you did only a little, at the end of the day you can say, I did this little,
Something.
and I did it, and I did it, and I didn't do it. I did it. And over the time, things will change.
You at least did something, no matter how big or small.
No matter how big or small, at least you did something. Like, when I say I didn't do anything feminist the whole day, but write one post on our shared shelf and explained one thing, however small it is, to a fellow our shared shelfer, then I did something feminist because I explained to them, I don't know, what the types of feminism or something else. I did it, and I gave one other person the ability to think about it and change their mind and inform them, and that's one little thing. But I did it.
So if I don't post something in our board at the department, does that mean that I'm not a feminist?
Of course not.
I mean, what I'm trying to say is that if I just bring the actions at a personal level, just in my personal life, I lead a life which I consider feminist acts at a personal level. That's still okay, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Of course.
Yes.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure if it's
Yes.
okay.
Like, I don't think you can do something, like, sometimes we can't do something feminist every day because we are ill or something else. But we can try, and every day, per se, we have the opportunity. Sometimes we can't, but we should at least try. We should think, what can I do today? And if it's something as small as writing a post explaining something to somebody.
Well,
There is something, I think, like, many of, I can't say many of us, maybe we were born and raised in a patriarchal society where so many things against feminism was ingrained in us during these years. I think the mere act of harnessing those feelings and those like thoughts would be still counted as feminism and being a feminist.
Yeah.
Even
There
if
are
you
many
didn't
ways.
do anything. Exactly.
The first thing is you have to acknowledge that you have a problem. That's the first thing, otherwise you can't change it. And then you have to think about what is the actual problem, because many of the problems are hidden and not in plain sight. And then you can think about, okay, what do I do more? But when you realize that there is a problem, like when I realized how negatively affected disabled persons are, for example, I realized that this is a problem as well, and then I can go on and think about how do I help them, how can I support them, how can I be a feminist for them, to include them. But first you have to realize that there is a problem. That's the first step.
Exactly.
And think about it.
I never pressure myself. Like each day I have to do something for a cause. I prefer to do it naturally. You know, when the opportunity shows, I take it. But
Yes.
I don't have a precise plan. I think it is too much pressure.
I doubt that any feminist has like a daily
A plan.
like maybe a plan what they do each day and once a week and so on. Like, okay, once a week I go there and talk with these people and so on. But I doubt that I doubt that any feminist has like a plan. Okay, first I do this and then I do this and then I do this, because that's not how life works.